Hello, hello, guys, and welcome. It's Manic Monday. If you can believe that, believe it. And you are here at No Man's Land at noon o'clock. Well, it's 12:02. We're a minute behind. That's okay. And I hope that you guys had a wonderful weekend. I know that it always goes by way too quickly. And you know what? Yeah, I kind of wish it was still the weekend, but it's not. It's Monday. And as usual, we wake up and Monday is always greeting me with, firstly, I'm like, luckily I'm here. This is wonderful. But then two, looking at the news headlines, guys. And that's what we are here to do, is hopefully to take a deep breath and just try and separate ourselves from the crazy. We're all mad here. But let's not be crazy. Right, Terry? Good morning, chat. Good morning, Tina, Brianna. Salud, favor, mubandra. Ooh, welcome. I'm wondering, where are you guys joining me from? Put in the chat right here or below, depending on if you're on Facebook or YouTube, where you are joining me from and what you would like to talk about. And also feel free to direct message me or find out more about who I am at paranormalsarah.com. I know the website Paranormal Sarah might be a little misleading, but of course not surprising to conspiracy theories. But that was a nickname given to me long ago by someone who's now famous on the Holzer Files, but has been a host of paranormal radio for a long time. And it was because I would travel around doing events and paranormal speaking and lectures in a time before there were restrictions, though some of those have been lifted, and we will get to that shortly. You guys, I'm wondering, there's going to be a few references to history, things that we're going to be mentioning. And I just want to know where you fall, what information you have, guys, because again, I don't claim to be an expert on any of this, right? I'm just a mother of two young boys here in America, living in northern Minnesota, having moved out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was struggling with some of the conflict in the social work spaces in Minneapolis, and myself thought, what can I do to be the change I want to see? Went out for the law enforcement program, learned as much as I absolutely could. We had the opportunity to then move our family north of the cities. We did that, living in a small town, being aware and open to some of those new hurdles. I've often lived state to state, traveled from country to country, but being able to put roots down into a small town that's very traditional, Paranormal Sarah, trust me, there are lessons to be learned. And in the last few years, especially, there have been some obstacles, and we're seeing that reflected in the news headlines. It's not just micro, it's macro. So you're going to probably see and feel and hear things that are very serendipitous to maybe things going on in your community, even if you're in Israel, or if you're in Australia, or if you're in the UN somewhere, or if you are here in America. Let me know where you're at, where you're joining me from, and what the news headlines are, where you are at, what you're concerned about, what things need to be mentioned in the media, because nowadays the media, as we know, it has been since Obama, is slanted. It is slanted. So some weird things. And I just kind of want to dip our toe into the conspiracy waters to start with. Not get crazy. Don't get crazy. But there are some fact checking things that are absolutely important and things that are relevant. And I don't want to just throw this out there to immediately get banned and shut down. But because I have oftentimes reported things that were told to me by my ancestors to never, ever, ever forget, and I'll bet makfrei, and to know what that means and what it does not mean. We have a lot of headlines going out and rooters and fact checking and things that is a big issue. It's just 7 minutes old, but a big issue for me this weekend as someone working in social works, someone working with conspiracy theorists, someone working in that space. There's a complaint out there, right? Claiming Israel and its COVID-19 programs and its Nuremberg codes and its context to international criminal courts, the ICC, and certain complaints that are going around since March 13th. It's been circulating a lot: penal courts, lawsuits, Pfizer, Nuremberg codes, new Nuremberg, new international criminal courts. There is some truth to that. There is also some misleading and misinterpretation there. This is kind of in reference to the 1947 Nuremberg Code, which is about research ethics and principles designed therein after World War II because of the heinous, horrific, ridiculous things that happened there, and what is to be considered a standard operating procedure or even permissible medical experiment. So this is a war crime, and what you are allowed to do and what you are not allowed to do. And of course, in what we saw in the concentration camps being done to people, it was inhumane. And so we had kind of this military tribunal, and we adopted, the world, the Nuremberg Code, the Geneva Convention. And a violation of this code, it constitutes war crime. And this is stuff happening in and around countries right now as they're dangling their toes into complaints for vaccinations, for Israel's vaccination programs, crimes against humanity, and some of the other reasons that there might be bombings going on or might not be bombs going on, or why there may or may not be mandates lifted suddenly. Why out of the middle of nowhere on a 19th or on a 13th or on a like it did with Hawaii? I don't understand. It doesn't even reflect the numbers. Pretty consistent with the things that have been done throughout this. However, it's really addressing more so claims in the healthcare professionals and administration about the administering of COVID-19 and its related vaccines, and any mask mandates related to the Nuremberg Code. And if you're interested in any of the Nuremberg Code, forensic psychology, hallelujah, it's never, ever, ever before, no one has ever before given a shit. Why would we care about the vulnerable? Who cares about the weak? Now, suddenly, when you are exposing the Achilles heel of yourself or your enemies, it's very, very important that you know how to manipulate your vulnerable, indoctrinate your vulnerable. And so this is a misinterpretation of a headline, but it's not something that is fact-checked to be false. In fact, the WHO and CDC are under certain scrutinies right now, and it's being called the Nuremberg Trials of 2021. And American media, I may even be banned and shut down right now for trying to say this. So if you're hearing this right now, the 24 of you that I see watching in this stream and the 14 of you over here, you are watching on purpose. Research for yourself. And what country are you in? Are you allowed to do any research on this? This is if we and our loved ones, which you or someone you know probably has struggled with the pressures of receiving the vaccine. If you're in North Carolina, you're probably joining the many. Or if you've been the part of the crunchy in California for a decade, if you've been going to see the documentary Vax will play for free in your area. What? They let you go for free? It's donations only. They just encourage that you come and see it. That's weird. I know, right? If you follow the money trail, there will be money to cover up information and free information for those who want to share it because they've seen their children die or seize out or foam at the mouth or something. So they want to make sure it doesn't happen to other kids. It's priceless to them. It's priceless to them. Interesting. Anyway, so these things are very important to pay attention to. Working in psychology and neuropsychology and the central nervous system and trying to understand forensics and ethics and interrogations and interviewing and how to assess someone in their mental health and looking at environmental factors and taking all this into consideration as a holistic practitioner, it comes full circle. As I tell you, it's very important to pay attention to the money here, as well as the particular timing. And again, we do conspiracies in the last 10 minutes of the show, but this is important because the Bill Clinton Foundation, still under interesting criminal investigations. And certain things with Bill Gates right today is a big headline. Bill Gates and how his wife, they're doing this big divorce and this and that. Well, also that Microsoft has said, you know what? We're going to be asking you to step down. Oh, when did that happen? Oh, that was March 2020. Back when Bill Gates was like, oh, I'm not getting fired or asking to step down. In fact, I'm wanting to do more philanthropic things. I'm going to save the children. In March of 2020, I remember that day, saying, I want to focus on charity, end quote. But actually, it was when investigations were started into affairs that he was having with people and rides he was taking on magic fantasy airplanes of Epstein, and sexual allegations of misconduct on behalf of people that seem to have been happening for decades. And when his wife got news of this, she said, So it's not just something that's happening after 27 years of strange and awkward things being shown on stage. In fact, it's after paperwork is being released, after, Ghislaine Maxwell trial case paperwork is coming forward and people are reading. So keep in mind how many coincidences make a fact, believe it or not. When I'm working with spiritualists, when I'm working with people that are wanting to enhance their own personal magic or mental health, I encourage you to look and listen and pay attention to the synchronicity, the way that magic talks to you, the numbers, the patterns in your life, and to be skeptical, but also give credence where it is due. So starting with that, it's important to kind of know your sources and pay attention and where the news headlines are. And so let's just kind of go down the line here. Okay, guys. And don't forget, like Scotty Roberts, Mary, you guys let me know your thoughts on these particular topics as we go through. I love listening to the Dark Horse. If you're familiar with the Evergreen, like the containers, the shipping containers, and the Fast and the Furious eggs all over the movies. No, Evergreen. It's also a very, very popular cargo container that you're going to it's a company. And that's, anyway, Evergreen. Also, professors being asked to not show up this day, that if you're a white person to not show up. And this particular professor said, I think that's ridiculous. I'm not doing it. And then was violently threatened. And then major issues happen. And him and his wife no longer work for that particular university. And instead they have a podcast, and it is called The Dark Horse. That's ironic. The Dark Horse, the title, it's actually it's kind of dry to listen to. They're both very, 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 very smart, very well educated individuals. And like most college professors, sorry to profile you there, they sometimes can just kind of talk. They're not always that animated, and they can be kind of like, Bueller. And so I like to often play it in my sleep. Anyway, they are recently talking about, and so it's a great podcast to go listen to because they will show you their sites like a darn paper about the CIA gateway documents. What? This was like New Yorker headlines today. Alien news, but now as a linguist, this is for me, a little flag that went up, because oftentimes now I want you guys to notice as we're approaching the relief recovery documents going to be delivered to the American people here very shortly, we also have this really unique space where we're starting to change our language. I know I've mentioned it before, whether it be facts or just what language means when we're saying things, you're racist, and what that really means. Alien versus UFO. And what those definitions, I'm using this a lot, what the definitions are. Unidentified flying object versus alien. What those definitions are to you, what they are in the field of study, how they are used, because that is going to matter and is being slowly integrated into the headlines in really subtle ways. One of the unique things about the gateway documents, but also about this United States document through the Navy, and interesting footage and evidence of alien, is that some of the comments and quotes are that there are alien species living among us, quote, beyond the human senses of perception, unquote. So then, of course, you have crazy, I say crazy, that you can imagine instigating quite a stir beyond the human senses. Man, all the mushroom eaters are just having a ball with that. I guess we won't know for certain until June 1st. And upon that time, we will have this huge flood of documents being released, and UFO versus alien and what that actually dictates is going to be important. However, there's also other important language in this document, which I know is important to mention. And that is the tacking on solar winds. The use of solar winds and solar storms in this interdimensional human sensory perception. Also, you guys, if you follow me on social media, I had just shared recently, there's been some cool publications coming out of Australia and other research publications, non-American, that America is having to collect, we're having to address it, about the autism spectrum and the central nervous system disorders and mood disorders and their correlation to solar flares and biometric pressure, barometric pressure. I always say biometric, barometric, barometer. BARO. Pressures in the atmosphere, atmospheric pressures, not just humidity, not just allergies, but the actual pressure where you are and the makeup of the oxygen in the air and the pressure in and outside of your body and how it's regulated. And that people that struggle with ADHD, DNA activators from if they're, say, for example, Scandinavian culture or descent, and then now finding themselves living in, Georgia or on the equator. This affects mental health and the assessment of it. America is behind in this. They don't really want to get on board with this science. What do we say is science? Man, some people are still over here arguing about whether or not we have a flat earth or a hollow earth. The United States government and the Navy and these documents stating, okay, we know that the pressure is changing. We know the ionosphere and the magnetosphere is changing. We know that Elon Musk is wanting to do some really important research for very important reasons. We know that climate change is an issue, whether it's man-made or not. We have to be relative to it, that it's Mother Nature shaking us off like a bad set of fleas, and we better be ready. And that right now we're going through some major solar storms, G1, G2, Schumann resonance, and that people are having mental health crises all over. And so then to correlate that with that alien dimension perception tacking on to solar winds, it was like, gosh dang it. I read that, I heard that, and I thought, well, here we go. Brr, crank it up. And so Scotty, an author famous for Megan Fox carrying around his Nephilim as she prepares for her work in some of those conspiracy theory shows. But Scotty, an author of a great mini series of books on theology and different fringe conspiracy things, talking about the Sasquatch sightings and spirit realm situations, talking about all of this on his own show with the Fae and how, I joined him on last week about it. We talked about elementals. If you go on Witch Talk or social media, I mean, it is a slow ramp from like, Dan Aykroyd and the Ghostbusters and the acceptance and the dissolving of popular religion being as strict as such to say, get out of here, demon, when you want to talk about ghosts. But now it's like, it's very, 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 very trendy to be a witch, to be making potions, to talk to fairies, to want to quit your job and live out of a van and just everybody say, the hell with this, because you're getting paid to stay at home, quite frankly. And because you can, and because the retreat back to nature, that get back to nature and the spiritualism, this awakening and solar flares, quite frankly, and the pressure affecting our brain, our mental state is a real thing. So if you want to watch The Dark Horse, they go much more into depth and in a more drier, scholastic way on some of those topics, and I would suggest it. Also, and just lightly, we're going to go in and out of this space because it's relevant to me. Tonight, there's kind of been a random in my small town, a board meeting. Parents, teachers come together again. And we had one not too long ago where people were leaving in tears and the police were present over critical race theory. And it's a headline again today as the White House PR says, you know what? They were asked to address the critical race theory and the issues with parents all over, making headlines in both liberal and conservative news platforms and media, declaring that, they are not okay with certain teachings, programs, frameworks, sponsored government grant, continuing education, anything happening in and around their community. And so this declaration that if you are blank, you must be a blank. If you're white, you must be a racist. And if you are white and don't think you're a racist, you just don't know yourself well enough. This kind of stuff and kind of indoctrination of sexuality or politics, either one being taught to children as young as kindergarten, and also knowing that it's kind of running parallel to a government leader that thinks it's okay to provide free school on the forward and back end. So pre-education, daycare, and also the community college for people. These are vital times of indoctrination. These are vital times. And you as a parent, and maybe not, just as a person in psychology, Albert Bandura, some of the discussions of just basic child development. You talk about showing them, a video of beating up a Bobo the doll. Google Bobo the doll. It's a very famous experiment, and it takes very little to incentivize, to provide punishment and reward, giving the mouse the cheese, so to speak. So this is really important that we just kind of keep it out of our schools. If we have a low literacy rate, if we're having struggles with children needing money in other areas like food and basic healthcare, which we all can agree is an issue in America right now, then we really don't need to be spending money, time, effort, or energy in other areas where, even if it is 60-40, a large portion of the community is unsettled and at unrest with something. So maybe we just leave that out. Do we need to be no, we don't. Oh, well, then why the fuck are we here? So it's kind of like, taking a step back and saying, listen. When do you learn racism? Can't we all agree in all of these really beautiful stories of such and such and who and what and these, back in my day, there was a woman who in black and white, she did this experiment, and, I can't say names because they will report me. It's really wild. Even if it's Democratic or Republican, it doesn't matter. They will eat their own now. So this is a big issue. There have been studies on social racism, discrimination, and how it is learned. But it's also inherent to click together to those that look like you and mirror you. But if we can all agree that if racism in some way, hating or thinking that your race is superior to another, that's propaganda. That's indoctrination. That's teaching. Do we want our schools doing that? Do we want the government doing that? If all of us to some degree or extent can say we don't trust the government, the politicians, or the hands or tentacles of it, why then do we want to compliment one and marginalize the other? If we can agree that, complimenting somebody with blue eyes is great and brown eyes is fine, and that just because you compliment someone with blue eyes, it doesn't marginalize the brown-eyed people. If we can understand that equality doesn't equal equity, and that equality is what our goal is, if we can all come together united that math is an objective form, a universal language, in fact, and it is not racist just because the chess pieces are black and white, just because the abacus is that way, it doesn't mean segregation. I mean, there is actual headlines suggesting that the motto, hard work is the key to success, is a white supremacist, systematically racist affirmation. And quite frankly, this needs to stop. That is a form of oppression that's sneaky, and it has no place in our schools. And it really doesn't have any place anywhere as far as integrity and standards of social conduct go. I think it needs to be removed completely. I don't really agree with cancel culture, but when it comes to a voted upon person, a politics, elected official, someone speaking for the many, the everyman, if you will, this should be someone I think we all agree that doesn't marginalize anyone for any reason. So that's important. But we also don't want to be a Sith. So always and never and absolutes are difficult. And right now is a difficult time. So I'm wondering your thoughts. I'm wondering how you feel. I'm wondering what your experiences are. Because I have worked as a teacher. I was a substitute. So in my supervision and learning early childhood development and things like that, I like to learn by application. So I took that job when I was pregnant with my first child. I took a job as a teacher. I wanted to see what was going on in the local monasteries, the places that I might have, and I might even be taking my own child. I was a tomboy raised by a single parent dad. I had one baby doll named Georgette, which was short for George Brett, because that was my favorite person to watch on TV. You guys, I'm not kidding you. So I thought that I would really be able to learn some things about children and diaper changing and nurturing from being around children. And I've watched my friends have children. I've been around children. I've babied children. But being responsible for a child is a completely different thing. Being in their presence and cooing at them is one thing, but being responsible for their well-being is different. And it's different when they're your own as well. When the responsibility shifts, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are granted with this immaculate gift of inherent intelligence, that just because the portal between my legs births children, which is indeed magical, it doesn't mean that I'm suddenly going to have this ample amount of know what to do. Now, some things are inherent, some instincts kicked in. I breastfed my children. I did things that I actually was not a child that was breastfed. My mom was an addict, so I was on the nearest formula or person that she could hand off to. So I changed and broke a certain cycle in ways that were very awkward to me, that were very different and strange to me. But this was something that I knew was going to be a learned process, and I wanted to be around other people doing it. And I saw the ability to say, oh my gosh, look at your beautiful brown skin. Oh my goodness, your hair. I love the beads in your hair. Oh, ¿cómo estás? ¿Cómo estás? Oh, no. Bonjour, ¿cómo se va aujourd'hui? Oh, hello. How are you? Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that. Oh my gosh, are you hungry? Do you want some milk? Okay, let's go. Are we all done? Like learning these different methods, learning how to talk to children, not be condescending, different age groups, how to do this, how to do that, how to cloth a diaper, not blah, 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 blah. There's no right or wrong way, but there should not be a forced way. And there also shouldn't be an only way. And the way shouldn't be harmful. If it's harmful, that's a sign. That's a sign. That's a sign. That's a sign that things are not okay. And so we need to say stop. Telling my child that he needs to stand up and apologize because of the color of his skin is not okay. And so to see the White House kind of take a position that was passive, it was really disappointing. And those are things that are happening in my small town of less than 2,000 people. They were happening hugely in Minneapolis before we left, when my kindergartner was coming home with no shoes. And I called to say, excuse me, what the hell happened? And they did not even know my son's name. They did not even know my son's name. Who? What? This is kindergarten. I'm sorry. We have so many students and 6 different languages, and I only have 2 PAs, and they just, some of them know how to do this, and some of them aren't even potty trained. Underpaid, overwhelmed. But still, it was my son who was suffering. My teachers who were suffering. So what could I do to ease that? And I'm not seeing a lot of that done in the policies or changes. And the critical race theory, it just adds a pressure. The name, critical, and race, and theory all are extremely important as a neurolinguistic programming person, paying attention to the language. None of those apply in the space that they are being applied. So that's how I feel about it. And it is an ongoing issue. If you don't feel like it's affecting you, you may or may not have children in the education system, but if maybe you think you might someday, or someone near you that you love does, reach out to them and ask questions and let me know how you feel about it. And also, if you're not in America, if you're somewhere else, what particular things have you noticed? Because there are other countries that are really struggling with the same thing as well. It's not just America. We are not special. So it's very, very, very important. And it's something that I think all of us are working on, and we need to be doing it together. And if anybody feels like this is a bad thing, we need to listen to that voice. So in world news, there's also some interesting things. I'm watching the clock and trying to be efficient here. But if you did not wake up to the sounds of bombs being dropped and sirens going off, then you are privileged. And that is the truth. You are blessed. Those may not be the words you'd like to hear or use, but whatever word you would put in that space, there are people who woke up that did not have the freedoms or the opportunities or the luxuries or the privilege or the blessing of seeing their loved ones, because they might have been near Tel Aviv or Gaza or somewhere, Israel, Palestine, or numerous countries struggling right now. We have a lot of Asian countries also still being pushed, people being physically pushed on the street. Colombia, how's Colombia doing? Hundreds of people dying. Genocide? Nuremberg trials 2021? And more than 2,000 bombs were fired from Palestine and Hamas just this weekend. I didn't have to deal with any single one of those personally here in northern Minnesota. That is a blessing. I cannot imagine. So if you have not seen any of the footage from any of it, the Iron Dome, oh, look at how amazing that thing is. It looks like a Klingon warship. It's like out of science fiction. It's so cool. People are also dying. Yes, it's cool to look at. But there's something really unique that happened. Thank you, Egypt, for trying to mediate. Thank you for the other countries stepping in. Where's America? Paying ransoms to Russia. Just paying hackers. That's fine. Just incentivizing that thing we talked about earlier. Anyway, what happened to we don't negotiate with rules? Geneva codes. Anyway, Israel using media deception in recent weekend warfare to perhaps tip the powers that be on the border. Instead of invading what they showed in their mass media, Gaza and the Gaza Strip, they instead dropped 160 bunker busters. That's what we call them, right? On the tunnels that have been tunneled in and around the area since 2014. And it's kind of interesting to see the government utilizing the media and calling it media deception, and that media deception warfare and certain accolades for it and its execution are happening over here, while a great many people over here are arguing if it even exists. Other people over here are getting awards, so they don't really care if you think it exists. Also, caring if you care if it exists, the monarchy, which I know I reference this often, and it's hard to listen to Russell Brand. He's English, I know, but Prince Harry and Kate really making efforts since we've had royal death. We have Queen Elizabeth, reptilian or not, getting up in her age. We have tradition. I mean, people twerking out in the streets, WAP, Song of the Year. Tradition isn't necessarily going viral these days. So there has to be a no man's land, a gentle walk of a balancing act between what is old and what is new, and how to keep the interest and social conduct, but also still keep, a reverence for everything that once was a fairy tale. And this dangling carrot, if you will, in a new age of Aquarius, the age of information, the age of what we require to be transparency. There's real efforts to try and stay relevant. And if you care, which you may not, I really don't. But this is news, and some of my friends and family out of the UK, just wondering how we might discuss this. I believe that you have Harry and Kate, and you have Meghan and what's his name? I don't even know his name. I mean, I do in there somewhere, but I can't right now on the moment. But you have these brothers fighting back and forth. Who?
William and Kate.
William. It's William and Kate, and Harry and Meghan. That's right. Little Harry. That's right. See, I knew it. It's my husband. He's helpful. So William and Kate, and they're the upper class, and they are the like this. And Prince William is like, I am traditional, and I'm the older brother, and I'm going to do this. And the younger brother, like psychoanalysis would just is like drooling. Yes, it's perfect. It's an orgasm. This that Harry's the young defiant one. He marries the pop princess Meghan, who says, I like this. No, I don't. Yes, I do. And I'm a Disney princess, but no, I'm not. I didn't know princesses bowed. And then, sad as me, woe is me. Sad as me, woe is me. Break break culture, like my mom. Oh, I'm going to keep culture. I'm going to keep like that. There's this dichotomy is so perfect. And I think that it may or may not be planned. I don't think it really matters. They're both trying to launch new social media. Follow us on YouTube channels. I won't follow either one of them. I don't really have the time. It's not so much that I don't care, but it's probably like 821 on my list and I'm just never even going to get to 50. So I probably won't watch that. But if it's important to someone I know and love, I will check in. I'm sure I will hear about it. Do I think that it's going to sway the monarchy? And do I believe that like Harry and Meghan want to bring a monarchy to America because it's lacking structure and foundation? And here in Hollywood, we kind of had something like that once, but then now suddenly Oprah and Ellen are like, being held accountable for babies and backpacks. It's weird, just weird things. And I don't know if we really need all that right now. I think we could do without it. But hey, it is not a pie mentality. That is one dangling carrot that is not real. As far as some things go, they can have a YouTube channel too, and people can choose to watch it and enjoy it, and that'll be fine. I think they have the right to do so. Am I going to give it much credence? No. One thing I do think is interesting, though, and I want to share this, just like I had recommended you guys research things on your own, something that came up that was given to me this morning. And I wanted to give you guys a link to this. I just couldn't believe it. And sure enough, it's not completely new. It would have been exclusive back in the last week of April. So it is a few weeks old. Dun, dun, dun. It's old. It's a few weeks old. It's like cottage cheese. Throw it out. But it was nonetheless a headline as a woman that I read. And I thought, what? And then my very best friend, she is what I call her my Sami reindeer princess. She is just very important to me. And her father is Middle Eastern and lives in the Middle East. My dad's best friend who died, we keep in contact on occasion with his family when they peep in and out. And we have family that are now, thank you, Biden, stationed back over out that way and watching things blow up. And so paying attention to this headline, I thought, what? Hold up. Wait a minute. Don't go there. Washington. And this was the United States has reiterated its concern about Iran's poor human rights record in its first official comment on the Islamic Republic election last week to the United Nations, top legislative body on women's rights. But it did fall short on the explicit denunciation of the outcome. And the UN, again, how is it doing this? How is it doing this? In April, the April 20 secret ballot, 43 of 54 nations in the UN Economic and Social Council, ECOSOC, ECOSOC, we should know those, elected Iran to the commission to the 4-year term beginning next year in the seat for promotion of gender equality and the empowerment of women, that it is going to be sitting as Commissioner of Women's Rights. Iran, the UN elected Iran to be Commissioner of Women's Rights. And Target is now selling Handmaid's Tale outfits near you and, other Asian nations like China, Japan, Pakistan, Lebanon, these other bodies of the ECOSOC, just also making major moves that as a woman and human rights, and we see major countries protesting this, like hundreds of thousands of women in Paris. And I thought, what? I didn't hear about this. That's why the United States called for the vote on the Commission of the States of Women, specifically allowing countries to register opposition. The United States supports candidates of the UN system that seek to contribute positively to work and mission reinforcing the foundational value of the UN systems, including human rights, to call regional groups to put forward candidates of strong human rights records. And we give you one with poor record, and we put them in charge. Iran would qualify for much of what I just said. Countries of troubling records and deeply disturbing inhumane treatment of women. Talk about disempowering women and girls. participating and contributing in society. I don't know if any of you, man. So because I am not living in that country, and I haven't been recently, I take every piece of media with a grain of salt, and spent some time this morning reaching out to my friends saying, hey, does your uncle still live in Iran? Oh, he does. Okay. Oh, and your sister-in-law? Okay, perfect. Can I contact them? Can I call them? Can I talk to them? Like, I've been in contact this week with my midwife from my first son, who saved my life, who's helping birthing women in Jerusalem have rights to equal treatment and fair treatment in the birthing space, the sacred space of birthing. And she's been trying to keep her and her loved ones above bombs. So I don't know if these areas should be put into this seat. I don't feel like they convey resolve in these areas. So I'll be looking into that. And I would encourage, if you know anything about that personally or more directly than what I just explained, let me know. Save me some time, because it is better late than never, right, Wayne? Good Lord Almighty. Talk about topsy-turvy. Talk about you guys, here's a poll. Mandela effect. Berenstain. Mandela effect. The thinker, the great sculptor, the thinker, the one responsible for guarding the gates and the pineal gland and the third eye. Where did his fist go in the great sculpture? When you remember and you think of it now in your head, and he's doing the Atlas kind of moment, but it's the thinker, the great famous, the thinker, guys. Put in the comments, where's his fist? Because it seems to be 50-50 on where it's at. I didn't know that this was an issue until this morning, but apparently it is. But as we approach the last 15 minutes of the show, I've got one page of notes left. So we may not even get to the breaking news headlines. But some things that I think are really important to mention for some of my listeners, because I know that we have some American listeners from all over states, North Carolina, who are out there trying to keep their body autonomy and to not have forced vaccinations. We have people in California trying to get the right to their businesses to be able to have the same rights that the out-of-state businesses filming in their area have. I have under his chin. Oh, not his eye. Tina says forehead. Jason says chin. Audrey says chin. Mary says, I'm not sure. Terry says, oh shit, the chin? Was it here or was it the thinker? Which one? Which one was it? This is a mind boggler. All sorts of weird little mind bogglers. But another mind boggler is that we had some recent stuff happening where it was like medical marijuana, recreational marijuana, federally legalizing marijuana in the wake of this pandemic, issues with this pandemic, even bigger issues with this pandemic, as we're going to move into that right now. But some states have been able to accrue billions of dollars in revenue, taxes that they can use to help with potholes, healthcare, and public issues, and other states that misuse the money, as people often do in power. But one of the things that, you start seeing is, well, the right will never let that happen. Well, the left will never let this happen. Well, it's got to be approved by the Senate. Well, it's got to get through here. Why is it never getting through? When you always hear that people could either give a shit less or that it could be very helpful, that medical marijuana can absolutely help reduce seizures, and that some of this natural medicine, whether you believe it or not, it should be up to an individual to at least try it. The right to try was one of the things Donald Trump did pass in his presidency that I felt was very important as a person. I think you should have the right to die and the right to try. When it comes to medication, if it's grown from this earth and if it's being profitized by other people, it's being mass produced and sold. If we have soldiers out there guarding poppy fields, we should be able to have access to this instead of making money off of people and incarcerating them in the back door. And so I am not unfamiliar with, and I just share that patent number 6630507, starting in 1999, 2003, 2011, the jump of cannabinoids through the pharmaceutical industry and government patents, the way that it has been used and misused. There is a reason that it cannot be removed as a Schedule Class 1 drug if it's being utilized and given as a medication in an oil space by states and other places. If it is being monetized in other ways. They don't want to change their rules and regulations if they're able to be the only ones making money off of it. And so again, it comes down to money. Look at the stock KLFE. Anyway, COVID. Let's talk COVID. Recently, again, friends and family that don't live in the United States reaching out and going, wow, did you see this? This was embarrassing. And that's always unfortunate. It used to be that America thought, we are the greatest thing on the planet. We are the greatest country that ever lived. And some people still believe that, but some of us kind of feel like maybe it might be a dying dream. We don't know. We're not sure. But we have friends on the outside going, hey, look at this stupid headline where you have the AOC flopping around like this, screaming about a bill, predominantly Democratic voted, by the way, that passed. And so it doesn't really matter. And Haley Stevens on the House floor screaming, yelling, Never a professional thing to do, by the way, guys. If you're going to go viral, it's going to be because you're screaming and yelling. And if I'll just tell you, if you're screaming and yelling, people probably aren't listening to you. If you want to be listened, don't scream and yell. But I'm trying to convey that I'm passionate. Okay, but you learn when you're 16, 17, 25, 27, eventually, hopefully, as a woman, learning to manipulate your power of vocal manipulation, weaponry, yelling, volume control, tone, these matter. And if you're screaming, people probably aren't going to listen to you. You might get attention, but it just means no one cares. And it also means you probably don't care about your content, which, of course, if you pay attention to what she's screaming, doesn't really matter anyway. And the hysterics, the timing, Pelosi dancing around a bill that was still passed, a stimulus bill. What? Yes. Now, again, whether you're right or left here at No Man's Land, I would just say knowing your source is important. If I'm going to want to listen to someone talking about money, someone who makes good money, is involved in money, who is a part of the money trail and is making money on their own, Ben Shapiro, legal podcast person. Now he's very right leaning. And so sometimes he can be kind of saucy. But he has a short video online that you can find talking about showing the video segments because he's not going to get banned and censored like I will. He's got a much bigger platform. And watching some of these women, Haley Stevens, the AOC, talking about the corona disclaimer, talking about the additional money, the benefits and where it goes, who has it, who wants it, and the stimulus bill that was passed just this weekend, right? Just under our noses, that if you have this or that, you're going to get this. Guys, it gives up to some places $1,100 a week in unemployment for 3 months, regardless of this, that, or the other. And I don't know about you, but even working 30 hours a week at this job, also running my own business, also trying to do the side hustle, that's more money than I could make. Why wouldn't I just sit on my ass? Why wouldn't I just sit on my ass? Why wouldn't I just be sedimentary? Why would a government want us to have an economic collapse, be sedimentary? Why? And why do you have someone like Nancy Pelosi completely ignoring the CDC and threatening to fine people out on the House floor $500 here, $1,000 here, even though the CDC is lifted? Well, not in schools, not in places where people were forced to be vaccinated, where teachers were given a day off of work and people in the house took a day to go get vaccinated. Where these people were all said that, well, we have to for the safety and this and that. And they all did it. And they all did it with money, got paid to $2,100 in the project. And they all did it on TV. Okay. Stupid. It's a stupid little game. It's a stupid little game. And something that I want to end with that I think is really, really important. That's very close to my heart. And I know we've got 10 minutes here, so I'll keep it fast, but important. And don't forget to find me at paranormalsarah.com. And you will be able to send me all of your concerns and we can talk after hours on all the stuff. But aside from the CDC masks being lifted and the mandates being changed, it really is coming down to, well, why? I still don't understand. It was like the numbers. It's like it didn't even matter. You're right. And it really kind of comes down to, and again, not someone that I like, not someone that I would ever hang out with, but somebody as far as, well, what on major mass media could go right now and Google and it's going to pop up on YouTube and then I could find it. Sedentary. I know my husband gets on to me. It's not a rock. It's not a form of rock. Right, husband? Right, Brandon? I mess that up every time. It's one of my words, sedimentary and sedentary. Talk about linguistics, right? I mess it up every time. Fulfillment. I also struggle with that word. Fulfill and fulfill. Just so you know, those are my weaknesses. If you want to know my Achilles heel, those are them. You caught it, Mary. You caught it. It is. It's referring to a level of soil, a sediment between rock and silt, because I know that I struggle with this. It is a real problem. These are my problems. My name is Sarah, and these are my problems. Anyway, stay focused, Sarah. Tucker online, Senate Committee State Affairs. Senate Committee State Affairs is what you'll see at the bottom of this. That's what you want to be watching. If you dare watch the whole thing, you can. I actually do sit and watch it when I'm folding laundry or doing something boring, and it helps me get through and pay attention to people's language. Thank you, Mary. And Tucker will just take it and highlight it and make fun of it. But in this, you see Mr. Hall. Now, who is Mr. Hall? Mr. Hall is someone on the Senate Committee State Affair, and he is discussing what Nuremberg trial 2021. No, he's talking about, and this is not a conspiracy theory, though I know it sounds like one and it's hinging on it, but since 2021, since the first of the year, in a 4-month time period, more than 4,000 people have died of vaccine death. More than 8,000 hospitalizations for severe heart-related organ failure, strokes, and blood clotting. Okay. Then in a 15-year time span of some of the most vaccinated 1997 to 2013 times that we've had yet. More than those years, those 15 years combined. What? Yeah. And so you're going to start seeing some of this kind of not being able to really sneak around the headlines. And why is the mask mandate lifted? Whoop, pretend it didn't happen. Pretend it didn't happen. And there are some people and situations. Angelina Farella. She's a pediatrician and she works in neuropsychology. She's somebody who considers herself a vaccine expert that she's talked for a great many years. You see her on documentaries and in books. And if you follow some of her research, she talks about when it is okay, when it is ethical, when it is not ethical, going back to the very beginning of the show, and other countries and why they are struggling, why they are getting different variants, why is India struggling, why is certain Israel struggling, why are these issues struggling? that it's an issue. So Mary says, but out of how many vaccinations? Well, here's the deal. You've got hundreds of Krogers across the country that are administering saline. It seems to be a process where you have some states pausing the J&J administration, the Johnson & Johnson. How many of what and where? How many after the second Moderna? How many before the second Moderna? How many? And this, you have to go and look now because the emergency authorization, no one's held liable. So to even report such a thing, there's not a process in place. So of these 4,000 to be accounted for, 1 is too many. 2 is too many. 17 babies is 17 babies too many. It's not a medicine. That's not a medicine. That's not a medicine. That's not a medicine. 100, 200, 400? How many? How many people die in a shower that it's okay for the greater good? 5 on that railroad track and 1 over here. What lever do you pull? How many? What is the value of one human life? Over 4,000 that can currently be held accounted to. And all of the others that are too afraid to speak up. That's not okay. That's not okay. That's not okay. A one-size-fits-all is not okay. And for people to be in Ohio being told that they will be entered into a drawing for free college education when it's already supposed to be free, according to our new president, is not okay. To be having ads of a free gym membership and a hot dog is not okay. There's no room for it. I don't want my medicine monetized. I don't want it to be profitized. I don't want it to be given to me in a propaganda envelope. I don't think it should be. I just don't think it should be. I just don't think it should be. Does it have to be? I mean, why does it have to be when other medications work, when other treatments work just fine, when the rate of death of the disease and respiratory illnesses, when Fauci is actually known for his publication on the black fungus and respiratory issues with unclean masks being more of a long-term pneumonia issue than actual respiratory illness that he's studied in the past. I don't know. Anyway, has anyone ever heard of the Great Wall of India? Not the Great Wall of China, not the Great Wall of Trump, the Great Wall of India? Let me know in the comment section if you have. Also, May 15th, U.S. Navy, UFO, ocean. Let's get into the conspiracy theories real quick. Luis Elizondo from the Pentagon. He's kind of known for being an interrogating liar. He's kind of known for being crazy. But he's also out there telling people to read their Bibles because aliens are coming and they're demonic, which is not what we in the social working field with conspiracy theorist people need. However, the language is important. So I do want to leave you with a really interesting one. Not just that, one, you're going to have a synchronization with seeing the Truman Show everywhere. Why am I going to be seeing the Truman Show or hearing about the Truman Show? Is it because you just suggested it to me, Sarah, and you know psychology and you're doing Inception on me? It could be. It could be part of Operation Paperclip. It could be Nazi Pentagon stuff that went to the Office of Strategic Services, later becoming the CIA, and in 1945, Truman to 53, the 33rd president. Oh my God, 33rd degree Mason. Army Motion Picture Services, Colonel Warner Pictures, Warner Motion Pictures, Burbank, California, Truman, Burbank. You will see some stuff about that will get interesting, that I think will be cool to follow up on tomorrow when we meet here again at noon. But then also a science alert, because as you guys know, my second book, Quantum Parapsychology, How Science is Proving the Paranormal. I love quantum theory. I love quantum physics. I am not good with math, but I'm trying. And the science alert headline today for an alien isotope. Can you please not use the word alien and UFO when we're waiting on XXX documents right now, please? I don't know. We thought it'd be clickbait. Okay, well, it was. Alien isotopes being found inside Earth. Oh, here we go. Hollow Earth theory, people. Inside the Earth, plutonium, radioactive, iron, crazy iron star killer. Kind of cool. We're finding new things, and we're not quite sure where or how they may have come, but they are related to solar flares and supernovas. They're related to star-killing chemicals and nuclear protons. And they're also related to hollow Earth. And why are we able to dig 5,000 feet below the Pacific and its lowest points to find these things? Who's doing that research? Kind of interesting. Really, really fun things to look into. And so I will leave you with some of those rabbit holes and encourage you to message me directly if you find anything fun that we should talk about tomorrow. So you guys, that's tomorrow here at No Man's Land. It is Monday through Thursday at noon Central Standard Time. I do hope that you will tag a friend, that you'll share this video, and you'll hear tomorrow at noon Central. Until then, guys.